U.S. Supreme Court decision is expected today, which will determine whether or not Virginia can remove alleged non-citizens from its voter rolls before the election. The state sought the court's intervention after the Justice Department filed a lawsuit against Virginia earlier this month, targeting a governor-issued executive order which formalized a systematic effort to remove non-citizens from voter registration lists. To learn more about the issue, we welcome Bart Marcois, a former presidential campaign advisor and former U.S. diplomat, among many other things. Thank you so much for joining us, Bart.
Thanks, Stephania. Nice to be here.
For sure. Now, if you could start with, please break down the arguments. Why is the Justice Department seeking to stop Virginia's effort here, and how does this tie into Governor Glenn Youngkin's executive order?
Sure. To start out, I want to make a slight edit to your intro. These are not alleged non-citizens. They are self-proclaimed non-citizens. They have identified themselves to the government of Virginia. They've said, we are not citizens. And so the Virginia state government, operating on a law that was passed, 15 years ago, 16 years ago, doing what Virginia government has been doing ever since under Republican and Democrat governors alike. They removed them from the voter rolls. They said, we're not citizens. They said, okay, well, then you can't vote according to Virginia state law. The Justice Department came in and said, wait. The Voting Rights Act says that you may not remove anybody from the voter rolls within 90 days of an election. Once you've hit that 90-day mark, you can't make any changes because it doesn't give time for voters to go and correct their status. But the Voting Rights Act doesn't apply here, according to Jason Miyares, the Attorney General of the state of Virginia, and according to most independent legal commentators and observers, because the Voting Rights Act applies only to legal voters, only to voters, and a self-proclaimed non-citizen is not a voter. And so it is, in my opinion, it's a shocking abuse of the power of the Justice Department, a misapplication of federal law, and I will be surprised if the Supreme Court sides with the Department of Justice.
And what does it mean for Virginia's voter rolls if the Supreme Court, decides to favor the Justice Department?
It means that 1,600 non-citizens will be put back on the voter rolls, and those 1,600 will be listed as voters. However, it does not give them the legal right to vote. I fully expect that if the court decides against us, that the response will be that the governor and the attorney general will say, okay, you're on the voter rolls, but in the state of Virginia, it is a felony to vote when you are not eligible to vote, and we will prosecute every one of you if you vote. The argument is not just about these 1,600. It's about who knows how many others that will then be emboldened to vote. We have same-day registration on Election Day in Virginia. Somebody can come up, register to vote, and cast a ballot. It will be a provisional ballot that theoretically is then subjected to additional scrutiny. But once those ballots are cast, then they're one step closer to being included in the pile of actual counted votes. And so this is an argument that is more about the ongoing consequences than about just the 1,600 voters in question.
And that seems like a big effect potentially for Virginia, but also beyond Virginia. What has been the success rate of states that are seeking to remove ineligible voters from their voting rolls?
The similar arguments are going on in several states. I'm sorry, I don't have at my fingertips which states they are, but I know that there are at least half a dozen states that are facing this. And interestingly, not coincidentally, many of them are the swing states that people talk about. And, the fact that the Justice Department is bringing this bringing this suit and making this such a big issue, it confirms something that we've been saying here in Virginia for a couple of months now. The state of Virginia is in play. Virginia is a swing state now. It's no longer a solidly Democrat state. And I believe, in fact, I wrote an article about this just a few days ago. I believe that President Trump is going to win the state of Virginia, and I think he's going to win it by a fairly comfortable margin, but only if people continue to show up to vote. The current projection is that Republicans are outvoting Democrats statewide. And in my county, Fairfax County, we usually lose by almost a 2-to-1 margin, sometimes more than a 2-to-1 margin. We're not keeping parity here, but we're well over 35% and nearing 40% of the vote. And that's an extraordinary showing for this deeply Democrat county to have that many Republicans. And if we continue that and keep that up, then President Trump will win Virginia, and we'll know it on election night.
All right, we'll all be keeping our eyes on that. Thank you so much. Bart Marcois, great to speak with you.
Thanks for having me.